over the last, almost 3 decades, y'all, I have been trying to figure out how to make my home cohesive and put together and still make sure that our personal style showed through. And, just flat, you knew that we are the ones that lived here, not someone else, not just a brand generic. If you've been struggling to make your home your own as well, then this is the video for you. I've come up with a design process that's my own that you can plug in, or I would hope to inspire you to make your own design process through things that you've learned. Yes, that is a unicorn that was colored by my grandchild sitting up there on the mantle. She had overheard me saying that I didn't really know what I wanted to do in the mantle this year, and so she put in her little design 2 cents. But before we can get to that process, we have to go over where I've been and how I got to this point. Start with the home that I'm in right now. We've been here for over 22 years. For years, everything was just kind of Mod Podge, and I was raising 3 boys, and we were busy with football and wrestling and baseball and you name it. We were going from here to there, and even though I'm a very creative person, I just didn't have it in me to do anything with the house. But as my children did get older, I started feeling I need to get a hold of this. I need to make this home feel more my own. And came across this blog because when I first moved in, there was no Pinterest. There was no YouTube. There weren't that many places to gain inspiration from. And, magazines, things like that. But a lot of that just felt unattainable and not real. So I came across this blog that I found on Pinterest. And this woman was a retired scientist, believe it or not, and now has this interior design blog. And she came up with this system. And one of the questions that really stood out to me was she asked, how do you want your home to feel? And that's where, I was like, that's a hard question. What I realized is I do know how I want my home to feel. As I've expressed before, I absolutely love the beach. Good thing I live in Florida, right? When I go to the beach, I feel the most grounded. I can shut out the outside world. It frees up space in my brain so that creativity can flow again. The salt water, the waves, the sun, all of it it gives me this peace. And I was like, that's what I want to recreate. I want that peace when I come into my home. Mind you, my kids are older. We're still running around crazy. So I needed that peace. So I painted the walls in the main part of the house in the sea glass color, which I love. And I still love, and I'm using that as a neutral. But as the kids have now left the home and life has, I've gotten older, I realized I need a little more energy, a little more vibrancy, a little more pop of color. The serene airiness was great, but it wasn't exactly us. We needed a little more creativity, a little more artistic feel to our home. All right, now let's talk about my design process. This is something that, again, it's something that I have just come up with. I'm not a professional interior designer. This is just a system that I have come up with that has helped me really get my home put together and make things feel really cohesive. So step 1 is the first thing that I learned, and that is, how do I want my home to feel? I want my home to feel serene and calm, but I also want a touch of vibrancy, energy, and artisticness. So I'm using that with artwork. I'm using that by adding pops of color in smaller spaces like my guest bathroom, or the hallway to the guest bedroom. Using that with little pops of color in my furniture and things like that. The other place that I really learned a lot from was the Design Sessions by Rebecca Robeson. She has a YouTube channel. You may know her from her Christmas decorating videos. She's a phenomenal interior designer and a phenomenal teacher. So she really taught me about symmetry and how to make your home cohesive, how to make a color palette work in your space and make it feel put together. I picked up many other things from there, but those are the ones that really stick out to me. So the second thing that I do in my design process is I find a color palette that I like. And that's what I did with this home. I started with the teal. When I had the paint store, I was always just so drawn to the teal. Yes, I had a teal butterfly, which that helped. But I also love this deep teal. It felt so rich and had such depth that I was like, I need to use that color in my home. And then I found other colors in a palette that would coordinate with it, that if you look on a color wheel, are complementary colors to it. And then from there, once I have a base color palette, I then can make the different spaces distinctive by using variations of those colors. For example, in my breakfast nook, I have a lighter turquoise color and a red and a more vibrant yellow, versus in this room, I have the deep teal and I have a gold and I have a hot pink. So the red, hot pink, the yellow is gold in here, and then the turquoise is deep teal. So your eye, it comes together and works together. The other thing with the color palette is, and this is again another thing I learned from Rebecca Robeson, is you can make something work together. You can mix metals, mix woods, if there is a repetitive version of it. If you've got teal over here, you need to bring teal on this side of the room. If you have, ideally, 3 places would be the best. So if you could bring a touch of it to the floor, up on the wall, and a little bit of it over on that wall or on the couch, then you have that repetition and it doesn't feel like, oh, there's just one wall that's out of place. So just because I settled on this main deep colored color palette, I don't have to replicate that exactly through each one of the individual spaces. So the next step in my design process is honing in my design style. So do I want something modern? Do I want something mid-century modern? Do I want something, what are things that I am drawn to? Am I drawn to things that are more traditional? Or am I drawn to things that are more rustic or farmhouse? The other thing to consider is you may be drawn to a couple different styles. Then you have to ask yourself how you can meld them together. Can you meld them together through color and it still look right? Do these styles complement each other? So what I have found, that my style leans towards traditional with trims and moldings and character that you bring into your home, but with that modern artistic flair. And that I use that by using color and artwork and things like that. The other channel that I found was Painted Boxwood. What I learned from them is they're not afraid to mix color, not afraid to mix pattern. They're not afraid to give pops of color. They use a lot of custom wall finishes, whether it be moldings and trims or wallpaper. They also use the ceiling as another wall. So the next step in the design process is the wall treatments. And I start to think, do I want to do a custom, maybe wood picture frame paneling? Do I want to put texture on the wall? Do I want to put a wallpaper up on the wall? Do I want to pick the wallpaper that is a bold print, or do I want a subtle print? Those are the choices I start to make after I find my color palette. So the last step in my design process is after I have figured out what type of wall treatment I'm going to use. Am I going to use wallpaper? Am I going to use a texture? Then I have the color palette, so I know now everything is painted. Now we can bring in the softness, the textiles, the pillows, the curtains, also all of home decor accessories. So your vases and your whatnots, Now you can take, the pieces you've curated over the years and make them work in your space. My son took a picture of a beautiful sunset when we were in Panama City just before Christmas last year. And then he had it put on canvas. And honestly, that helped spark putting in that hot pink in the rest of my room. Because originally, the color palette that I really loved was the dark teal, the gold, and a red. But since he did that picture, and then I realized, wait a minute, I have some pictures that I picked up of doors in Puerto Rico that also have a hot pink in them. Wait a minute, I'm going to use hot pink instead of red, and that helped that room all come together and also stay cohesive with the rest of the house. Homeworthy is another channel that I follow on YouTube. It tours all types of homes, from apartments in New York City to modern places to traditional to coastal to you name it. It's actual real people's homes though. And that's what really, I really loved about it. It wasn't a super staged home. Of course, we all print things up when we're going to go on camera, but it wasn't, it was actually a space that people function and live in. And it was curated with pieces that they've collected throughout the years. So will this process help you to put your home together and make it more you and personalized, a little less cookie cutter, a little less like everybody else's? I hope that it has, if my system doesn't work, I hope that I've at least inspired you to kind of come up with your own process. There are some nuts and bolts like that you can learn from interior designers like Rebecca Robeson that surely will help you. The design sessions, I'm not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. It's only a few dollars a month, and the rate of return that you get out of that is well beyond what you're paying each month. So check that out. And you may want to look into some of those YouTube channels too, that as you're touring through those homes, you may say, I like that. That's my style. I'm drawn to that. That excitement excites me. That lights me up. That's me. And that's what you can bring into your space. And that's how you make it your own. Click that card right up here so that you can see the video that I put out last week. And I showed you how I transformed my dining table that was actually an heirloom that my mother gave me. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a video, because next week it's going to be super fun. I have a source to find some home decor that you really probably never thought of. So make sure you check out that video next week so you can see what that source is. See y'all in the next one.